friends, and welcome back to First Chapter Friday. This Friday, I picked Ravenous Things by Derrick Chow. So I will read this first chapter to you. Chapter 1, Happy Birthday. The cemetery was an in-between place. The sort of place that barely existed at all unless you were looking for it. It was a small patch of land with only a dozen gravestones poking out of the yellowing grass. It was bounded on one side by a highway overpass and on the other by a cookie factory, which loomed like an enormous metal fortress. This meant that the air was always filled with the roar of passing traffic and the smell of chocolate chip cookies. Reggie Wong knelt before a bronze plaque set into the ground. While he'd first seen it at a funeral 2 years ago, it was as shiny and brilliant as a new penny. Now it was tarnished with green and black grime, and its edges were overgrown with grass. Even so, when he leaned over the plaque, he could see his reflection peering back. A 12-year-old boy with a thin, tanned face, black spiky hair, and a pointy chin he secretly hated. Sometimes he found himself pretending that it wasn't a reflection, but some poor boy buried down there in place of his father. "Happy birthday, Dad!" exclaimed Reggie, holding up a gift that was wrapped in the comic pages from last Sunday's paper. "Sorry about the wrapping. The only paper we have at home is covered with Santas." Reggie imagined his dad smiling in response, the way he used to when he was watching reruns of Star Trek on Saturday mornings. "Hope you like it. Made it myself in art class when we were supposed to be painting self-portraits. Got in trouble with Mrs. Pasternak, but it was totally worth it." Beside the plaque, nestled in a cluster of dandelions, was a blue biscuit tin wrapped in twine. Reggie smiled fondly at it and reached out, brushing it clean of dirt and fallen leaves. This was the very first gift he had brought here to the cemetery. Then he placed his dad's birthday present on the plaque and tore off the paper, revealing a handsome clay sculpture. He held it up against the sky, which was streaked red and orange by the October sunset. The sculpture was a flat disc the size of a dinner plate, with two oblong shapes stuck on one end. He grinned proudly of his creation. It was pretty darn good. "It's the Starship Enterprise. Sorry, I know the colors are wrong," referring to its distinctly pink hue. "It was Gareth Flanagan's fault. He dipped his red brush in my white paint. That jerk totally did it on purpose." A honking began rising out of a flock of geese which flew by overhead in V formation, no doubt heading south for the winter. I wanted to add blue lights to the engines to make it even cooler, but I didn't know how. Reggie tried to blink away the telltale stinging in his eyes. If his father were here, he'd open up his shiny red toolbox and pull out exactly what he needed to make these engines glow. That toolbox was somewhere at the back of the hall closet now, under a stack of moldering boxes, dusty and forgotten. He set the spaceship down on top of the plaque just below the words, "In memory of Arthur Wong, beloved husband and father." "Mom says happy birthday too," lied Reggie as he tore up a fistful of dead grass. "She couldn't come today because..." Because what? How was he supposed to end that sentence? Anger welled up inside of him when he considered the possibilities. Reggie picked up a small rock and hurled it viciously at the nearest gravestone. It ricocheted off the mossy limestone surface and smashed into this clay enterprise. He couldn't have done it better if he painted a red bullseye on it. "No!" He picked up the spaceship gingerly. One of the engines toppled off and pinged hollowly on his dad's plaque. A bubble of regret floated up into Reggie's throat and came out a long, quivery sigh. He peered down at the broken spaceship in his hands, this gift he'd made for his dad, that he spent hours on, and the stinging in his eyes blossomed into tears. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I'll take it home and glue..." Reggie stopped when he glimpsed his own reflection on the plaque. He looked completely ridiculous, sitting there in an empty graveyard, talking to the thin air, crying over things that could not be undone. These visits were pointless. His dad couldn't hear him, not now and not ever. With hot, bitter blood racing through his veins, Reggie vowed never to come back. He shouldered his knapsack and stormed off towards the gate. The tallest and grandest gravestone in the cemetery was capped with a stone angel. His arms were outstretched in a pose of permanent blessing, and her face was carved in an expression of serenity. But at that moment, maybe because of the deepening shadow brought on by the sunset, her eyes seemed much wider than usual, as if she was frightened of the man standing behind her, cloaked in her shadow. As soon as Reggie left, the man stepped out from behind his hiding place. He crossed over to Arthur Wong's plaque and grinned at the blue biscuit tin and broken spaceship the boy had left behind. Then he pressed a wooden flute to his lips, took a deep breath, and started to play. A strange tune spattered out, filling the air and echoing hollowly off the huddled gravestone. It sounded almost like laughter, but not the pleasant kind. It sounded like the choking, mirthless cackle of someone up to no good. Dun, dun, dun. So, if you would like to read Ravenous Things or any other horror-related titles, give us a call, and we'd be happy to set them aside for you. Happy Friday!